But not much to talk about, not many changes with your 7-day forecast. There are some changes when it does come to the tropics. So we've been continuing to watch this wave that has moved off the coast of Africa over the last couple of days. You can see on the satellite imagery, underneath all this red, the red X, underneath the yellow, you can see that there are a lot more clouds and they're trying to circulate, trying to organize, and it looks like a very good likelihood that sometime before the end of today, if not today, really early tomorrow, that this system is going to be our next named storm, whether that's a tropical depression or a tropical storm, but now up to a 90% chance of developing over the next 48 hours. And once we get a chance that high, we don't really focus on the next 7 days because it's just going to be the same chance. But these are the highest chances of development that you can have. I know the system last week popped up a 90% chance of development, but that was over the next 7 days. We only saw the window of the next 48 hours get up to a 60% chance with that tropical wave. But this system is just continuing to move into a conducive environment for development. And as you see, this red shade continuing up to the west and the northwest. All the spaghetti plots that I continue to look at, they're not able to pop up on our graphics as of right now, but I am taking a look at them, monitoring them closely. What I see the system doing at the very most is creeping very close to the United States, but it still looks like it's going to take that curve back up into the north and into the Atlantic Ocean. So it doesn't really look like this is going to have any implications for central Georgia, maybe some impacts along the Atlantic coast of the United States, but that still remains to be seen. If we get a named storm with this before the end of today, a cone forecast will come out, and that will give us a much better idea of the specific path that the system may take. Now, just behind it, we have another area that is being outlined for potential development. This is right over here where you see the yellow X. So once again, where you see these X's actually outlined, that's going to be the actual system itself. The shaded area is just kind of giving you a general idea of the direction that these potential systems are heading. So right now, this wave right over here, moving off the coast of Africa, the westernmost coast of Africa. I'll have to do some refreshing on my country geography over there on the western tip of Africa. But it does look like this wave is going to continue over towards the west, just south of the Cape Verde Islands, and continue to run into the same environment that this wave in front of it just interacted with. Now, it may take some time for this system to gain some organization, build up some steam, because like we were talking about with the red shaded area, it was encountering an area of dry air, and that's going to be currently present back down to the east and the southeast of it. So this system will be running into its fair share of dry air. Maybe that dry air cluster can kind of break apart as this system does continue over towards the west. All in all, there's nothing of immediate concern with this system. This is still a very low chance of development, only a 20% chance of developing over the course of this next week. Now, there's a 0% chance of anything forming over the next 48 hours. So, like I said, this is just moving off the coast of Africa. If this is to maybe say get its act together and have a path towards the United States, it's going to be about a week and a half, 2 weeks before we're going to see any impacts with that. But it will be something we're closely monitoring about the chances of development. Is this going to run into a more conducive environment for development and maybe claim the next name on our hurricane season list? But that's as of the 8 a.m. update this morning. We'll get another update at 2 p.m. this afternoon, and meteorologist Ansley Parker will have more information with all things tropics as you go into the 5:30 and the 6:30 hours of our new and extended evening show. So hurricane frequency, we talked about it yesterday a little bit, but if you weren't here for the talk yesterday, on average, since we started taking records with hurricanes, the peak of hurricane season is officially on September 10th. Now, that was last Wednesday, so we are well past the peak already. This just means that on average, September 10th is that date where we typically see the most frequency of not only hurricanes, but also hurricanes and tropical storms. So that's why you'll see the red shaded area for just general named storms. Some may be below hurricane criteria, but also the official peak does fall for hurricanes just as themselves, September 10th all time. So after that, once you get to the peak, obviously you go down. Remember everything that you learned in language arts about the plot of a story. You reach the peak, the climax, and that's where really you should have the most suspense and the most going on with your story. Then after that, you have the falling action that kind of wraps up the story, and then you get over towards the conclusion. Well, we will see the frequency go down, but not to say that it won't be active as we go past the official peak, because that's exactly what's happening right now. We've already hit the peak and we're getting more activity present this week as opposed to the middle of last week when we didn't have any potential areas of development outlined. So we'll continue to keep a close eye out, because you do see that all of these shaded areas are still pretty high as we go well into the month of October. It's right here along this line that goes all the way down to October 20th that we really start to see a downfall in activity as we roll into the month of November, which typically isn't very active during hurricane season, but you can get a couple named storms in nature. So 2025 hurricane season's name list. It's been a while since we've seen a named storm. The last one was Tropical Storm Ferdinand, and Ferdinand was simply a fish storm. It moved east of Bermuda up into the North Atlantic Ocean. A very similar path to Hurricane Erin, which was just before it, but Hurricane Erin just moved a little bit closer to the United States. It moved over to the western side of Bermuda and then went out back into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So 6 named hurricanes, not hurricanes, excuse me, only 1 named hurricane so far in the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season, but we've had 6 named storms so far. The next name to claim would be Gabrielle, and it looks very likely that we'll have Gabrielle by the end of today or maybe very early tomorrow. But if that system behind it, just moving off the coast of Africa, is to decide to get its act together and start to organize, Umberto is going to be the next name list. There's an H in front of it, but the H is kind of silent. So really just kind of take away the H, actually. If I just put my hand over here, the official pronunciation of this would be Umberto right there, but it does have an H in front of it. And that H name is very, very important, because you take a look at last year's hurricane season. August 12th, we had Hurricane Ernesto form. So that was pretty early in the month of August. It looked like we were kind of on pace for a pretty active hurricane season. But then we didn't have anything form until September 9th. That is nearly a month in time. So that period between when Hurricane Ernesto formed and when Hurricane Francine formed, that was the least active tropical period in 56 years' time. So yes, obviously, we were very, very quiet during the month of August, and we really didn't see activity pick back up until we got right around the peak of hurricane season on September 9th and then September 11th when Tropical Storm Gordon formed. And then we had another bit of a lull in activity. September 24th is finally when Hurricane Helene did form down in the Caribbean Sea. Obviously, we need no reminder about just how strong of a storm Hurricane Helene was. But the 2024 season, we had 6 named storms before the official peak of hurricane season. And then after the official peak, we had double the amount of named storms. So obviously, you can get a late start to hurricane season, and last year is a big testament to that. Well, here's the numbers for 2025. 6 named storms before the peak. That sound familiar? That is exactly the pace that we were on last year, and we're still forecasting anywhere from about 7 to 12 named storms for the rest of hurricane season. And right now, just according to the current picture in the tropics, it does look like we are going along with the schedule that last year had. Not to say that it is going to be an above average season, but we still could have anywhere from 7 to 12 named storms that could be forecasted, maybe even less than that. Sometimes we don't live up to the forecast, and that would not be a bad thing.